Thank you for bearing with me. We're just trying to create some more space and time for everybody to kind of go from the DJ session, and I'm sure you all are working and allow you guys to come to the session. We're more so a little bit tight on time, so we wanted to get rolling, but hopefully if anyone joins and we're already in the workshop mode or just talking about the things that we designed for ourselves and hopefully things that you can leverage, maybe the chat function will allow people to get caught up to speed. We also have a pitch deck that we're sharing that could somewhat give some framework. So just to give you an overlay, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Yacob. I co-founded Pariti. I have my head of product, Selman, sitting next to me. He's also my roommate, so maybe you guys can share him some well wishes. I'm sure it's probably hard living with me or working with me, so he's been amazing. And we also have Gareth, our CTO, who are all critical functions of how we looked at part-time staffing and designing a business, and then thinking about how you keep costs down but keep quality up, and then think about once those kind of roles that you outsource to be part-time staffing needed to become critical full-time roles. That's what we're going to walk through and be as quick as we can, so that way we can open it up and just have the audience ask us questions of maybe ways that Pariti can support, or other organizations that provide freelance remote support, or even your own networks, and think about how to leverage the people that are in your community that can help you build a business, and think about it from a more cost and value perspective. So we can see I hope everybody can hear me clearly. If you don't, please just send something in the chat and just say, hey, I can't hear you. And I hope you can see the slide deck. With that said, I will start to go into remote and freelance work. I wanted to allow Selman to talk about just the dynamics that are going on right now and why we're all remote right now. So it's an opportunity for us to leverage this future of work and be able to learn from this environment. And once we hopefully come out of this, are able to sprint and access global talent and leverage the ecosystem that we have in front of us. So Selman, maybe you can share a little bit about how we look at that.
Yeah. I mean, we all know that the future is remote. There's a lot of resources out there. There are a lot of other conferences or other sessions on how the future is remote, and there are a lot of tools being built in this space as well. What I think isn't being as at least discussed or in the spotlight is the freelance bit. And we've built our business around freelance and remote talent. And here we want to kind of talk about how we've used that approach in our storyline from Pariti day 0 to where we are today, how we've really approached that, how we've been able to identify areas where we can really, really utilize and leverage that instead of just focusing on the traditional way of full-time in-person hiring. So with that being said, let's just hop into the case study and kind of talk about our storyline.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. So how we're looking at sharing this information with you is kind of how Pariti came about. So I had been doing a lot of freelance advisory and consulting work. I built an accelerator with Fred Swaniker and Achaleke, just focusing on providing talent and capital to startups. And we realized that gap was pretty big. And after a couple gigs on the continent and a couple countries, I started getting a lot of inquiries asking, hey, can you help me with some finance, some capital raising, some design work? And once I wanted to really test out this model, which is is the demand there? I wanted to use other people that were in my network that had the skills and not me myself to see if it could actually scale. And what we did was, there was a friend of mine that was in the design capacity, a product capacity. She helped me figure out the best way to scope out work, to create marketing materials for a client. And then I had a friend that was in the finance industry, and the client, or the prospective client, had a finance gap because their CFO was leaving and the next CFO wasn't starting for a couple of months. So how do we design that process? So my designer friend created the framework, the marketing materials, and the scope of work. And my finance friend was the person that was doing the execution work, as you can see on the slide. The big gap there, and also something that I lack as a skill set, was operational skills. I'm not the person that's running. I'm not keeping an eye on the clock. And I knew for us to be scalable And for us to repeat this kind of service, I needed to work with someone that had that capability. And this is where Wasson, our COO and our co-founder and a dear friend of mine, came into play, where he started to design the processes around how freelancers were coming in and out of the project, how we were interacting with our clients, and then how we were tracking the engagements. Now, after that first engagement, what I realized was the design work, the finance execution work, or the market research work, all these like pre-scopable execution design works were easily slottable. But the one thing that wasn't was the operational things, the internal learning. And I had the benefit of coming from an education company prior to this. So I knew that our learning model had to be internally housed, someone that had that capability. And that was where Wilson and I really aligned, and we realized that he needed to join full time. He complimented me and I complimented him. And we started to engage in designing these processes, templates for how our finance freelancers would do financial models, how our consultants would do market research, how our designers would look at product review. After we did a couple of transactions, we started to see that there might be more demand across the continent. And this is one of the things as an entrepreneur you want to consistently build for, is that find out a product market like process, like where someone will pay you for what you're doing, right? And then figure out all the tools that you need to be able to deliver that at a high quality, and then think about the things that you're not good at. Wilson interjected that, and he controlled that environment for me. And at the end of that engagement, we wanted to scale into other countries. And I realized that the problem around operationalization was the baseline was consistently changing. So the ask was consistently changing. So then you can't outsource that kind of a role, because that person needs to have an intimate understanding of the business. So Wilson was full-time at that point, and we started to see enough reps where we thought maybe this can become productized. Maybe this can have technology where we can continuously add value to the ecosystem, quality, and continuously bring down cost. And I guess it might be like serendipitous of how I got connected with Selman, because at the time he had a consulting background, he had a math and data science background, and he was at Facebook. And so he had seen the definition of scale. And coming from Turkey, he really, really wanted an opportunity to be working on problems in emerging markets. So he designed a lot of the protocols for us to build our first automation. He saved us so much money on the way we built our internal systems, our tech platforms. I'm going to pause there because obviously he has a better understanding of it. He's the one who educated me and Wasson on how we wanted to approach it. So Salman, I'll hand the baton over to you so you can kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, and when Yacob first approached me with the goal of, hey, we want to expand capacity with tech, we want to build a product around this. Coming from a product background, I sort of approached it from a very experimentation angle. So for me, this was just an experiment. And actually, after that approach, I felt that this would be actually a great freelance engagement for myself. So I wanted to come in, work with them, really assess whether there was a product ability in there, to see if this could actually be standardized. What are the needs? How can we really build a product around this? And then shortly after, I actually approached Yacob and team and said, hey, we should just build an MVP. And we don't know where this is going to go. Let's just start building some stuff. And again, this is an experiment. So we wanted to really, really keep myself as well as the engineer that we hired as a freelancer. So that's kind of how we approached that aspect. Shortly after, we did actually achieve what we wanted to achieve with the MVP, where we saw that we were able to productize this business. So that kind of shifted the question from just expanding capacity to let's really, really, really sit down and build product for a company. So that required a longer term strategy. That required a lot more involvement. This actually became a core pillar for our business. And so at that point, that's when I transitioned, similar to how Wasson transitioned from a freelancer to a full-time. Myself, I sort of went through that same transition. After we sort of defined the high level like product roadmap, wanted to kind of hop into the design sprint and really understand customers, really see where their needs are, where their pain points are, what their wants are. And again, this was an area where we didn't know what was going to come out of it. We wanted to just do research and then see where it would take us. We didn't really know what type of design skills we would need at the end of the day. And so we again hired a freelancer to come in and really ask the hard questions and actually lead us in the research and design phase. With that in mind, we learned a lot, and afterwards we realized, okay, we have a clear product vision now. We know what we want to build. Now we need a technical leader to come in and define a longer-term engineering plan. And this was a validated goal. We wanted to build a product. This wasn't an experiment anymore. And so instead of at that point relying on a freelancer, we really took the time and invested in full-time hire. And that's when Gareth joined the team. So this is kind of our story to date. I mean, we've obviously didn't include every single freelance hire here just for simplicity and time. What I want everybody to take away from this is that there are a lot of goals that you'll face on a day-to-day basis as a business, and a lot of them will be experiments. A lot of them will be just questions. And instead of just jumping into hiring full-time every single time, let's try to take a step back and try to think about what haven't we validated. Could some of the skill sets we need be changed over the next few months? Should we actually rely on freelancing and really build our business around freelancing to really answer a lot of those questions and be more agile? So at this point, I just kind of want to stop and kind of move into the Q&A section, take in some of your questions, and actually maybe walk through some of your problems that you're facing today and how you can potentially leverage part-time talent to be able to answer them. But yeah.
Yeah, so as Salman said, how I kind of messaged in the chat, like we just want to share an experience of how we built our business and how you can kind of tap into this global market, just so you can be. So we have a question. How do you handle marketing at the early days of Pariti? All right, questions coming in. Great.
Nice.
How did we handle marketing at the early days of Pariti? So actually, Ralph, I would also want you to explain a little bit more about your business, or maybe the background of where you're coming from, because for us, the biggest thing for us was trust. So originally, how we marketed ourselves was just talking about the transactions that I had done in a private way. Like I helped raise the Series A for AOU, which is a tertiary education startup. And then I helped raise the Series A for a company here in Kenya. It's called M-Survey. It's now been rebranded as Ajua. So the biggest thing was how do we make sure people feel comfortable to trust us with the future of the business, right? If you're raising capital, you've kind of gotten yourself in a situation where you figured some stuff out, but money's going to be the accelerant, right? It's going to be the gas for your business. And for us, we realized that if you trust us and you know that we're capable of doing the work, that's the best way to market ourselves. And we market ourselves to our partners. The same way that our freelancers join our platform, we don't have actual direct marketing for our freelancers. It's very organic. If a freelancer has a good experience with us, they usually recommend Pariti as a platform to other freelancers. So you really got to make sure you focus on the people you're servicing originally. Make sure you make time for them. Make sure it's intimate. Make sure it's real. Like you talk about things that are going up and down, right? Because people want to know that you're not just selling them some like package thing. What we graduated to was having conferences, me speaking on panels, Salman speaking on panels, running workshops, and we're still evolving, we're still learning. Looking at some of these questions here. How do you make, from Alani, how do you make charges for your freelancers, freelance hires? Are you asking how we charge, how we price? So it depends, like if we're doing something finance based, we'll think about it in the sense of like, this is more of like an easily controllable kind of project where if someone's doing a financial model for a seed stage business, there's generally a template that we provide, some market research that we provide, and we have some quality control freelancers that can tell us, based on the information provided, it's going to take this many hours to do the work. And based on that hour, we have offer to our freelancers, and then we have an offer to our clients. So we don't like to make it a time-based thing. We use time as like a marker, because at the end of the day, we've realized from a lot of other freelance platforms that on the client side, no one wants to feel like they're paying for someone's time because they really feel entitled to it. And then on the freelance side, it doesn't feel good when someone is saying like, I paid for 10 hours, for these 3 days. I want all of your time right now. So we more so focus on deliverable based work, and then we try to like back our way into the time that it takes to deliver on that work. Marianne, Marianne, we will be sharing the slides. Sorry that you missed that. Sunil, your question is, I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Wait, if it's not helping early stage startups, for example, companies, accelerators like TechCabal. Yeah, so I think, Sunil, for your question about helping early stage startups, what we've realized from Parity's side is that early stage startups, the biggest problem is like, help me raise money. I need money right now. And the ecosystem in Africa right now for early stage investing is not like it is in Berlin or London or SF, where you have a whole bunch of people walking around that have exited Google or Facebook. So there's not people walking around that are able to make $50,000, $25,000, $100,000 checks. The people that can make those checks are usually interested in the real estate space, so they don't really understand, or they're more into brick and mortar, maybe they're in agriculture, so they don't really understand the tech startup space. So we do help those companies. We try to help them be prepared and matched and understand some of the questions that investors are gonna ask. We're constantly trying to figure out a better way of creating a narrative, so we're not just trying to force companies on the continent to contort themselves to the jargon and lingo that is of Silicon Valley. But yes, we help with early stage companies as well. How do you ensure transparency and accountability when working remotely? So the best way to ensure transparency and accountability is deliverable based work, right? So hence why we don't charge for time-based work, right? Or we don't do strategy-based work or like big cloud thinking type of work. Like a lot of later stage advisory companies will do that. So if someone's building a financial model for you, you're gonna know it because it's gonna be delivered or it's not. If someone's gonna build a deck for you, you're gonna know it because it's gonna be delivered or it's not. If someone's doing market research, or product review, UX UI review, or tech review, you're gonna know it because there's an actual final deliverable of it. And you're not asking that person for 4 or 5 hours of their time per week. Not saying that we feel anything is wrong with those models, but for us, we feel like it's just easier to make sure the client side or the demand side is satisfied with what they're paying for. And the supply side, the freelancer side, the global talent side is able to actually quantify and qualify what they're doing. Yeah, so Alani, we do free pitch reviews for decks. And so our platform will automatically send you an NDA, so you're going to be protected about all your information. And we're doing actually right now, we're doing a better job with developing a platform. So as we review your models, your deck, we're able to look at it and extract insights from it and be able to share that with you. And it's all anonymized. Your information is not going to be shared with anyone else, and no one else's information is going to be shared with you, but it will give you some sense of an indication of like what's going on in the ecosystem. So it helps you understand like how you stack up. So all the NDAs, the contracts, all of that is automated and it's there to protect you. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable sharing your information with us. In addition to the freelancer support, build the capacity of staff around these functions. So Anisha had a question outside of financial models, investment readiness, do freelancer support to build the capacity of the staff around these functions too. There is no design process that we have, but our model is like, take our freelancers, please hire them if they fit your model, because they're gonna learn your business better. They're gonna have an intimate understanding of them. And if we are just kind of like the buffer for you to have access to these people and you find that they're valuable and then they start actually designing core functions for you and they start adding value in your core functions, then they can help you build out other processes. So we haven't designed a process where I feel like that question goes into a little bit of HR and like how to build the business out. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but if you have suggestions for us, we're more than willing to learn of how we can solve that gap for you. I hope we were helpful. I hope this conference was useful. Manuel, you want a shirt? Okay, we'll get you a parody shirt. All right, guys, we're just going to sign off here. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, and we're so grateful for you to make the time to connect with us here today.